This is Lifted, a podcast by women for women. I created this podcast in order to showcase the strength women bring to the table on a day-to-day basis. Women in business, women in employed roles, women in athletic and sports capacities, women in motherhood and parenting, and even women as partners in relationships. It is clear to see that when women come together to support each other, they create such a strong force and help each other live their best lives and show up as their highest selves in this roller coaster called life. I also showcase and highlight the strength in women undertaking bodybuilding as a sport, the mental resilience and discipline required to get oneself through competition prep, and also what it takes to take your body through such an extreme sport by sharing experiences of different athletes in the sport. Having this platform to talk about all these things is important to me because based on personal experience, it was the key to unlocking my true potential, and by passing this on, it might inspire you to do the same in a different or similar capacity. This is Lifted, a podcast to lift you up, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally too, by talking about different ways of dealing with daily challenges we all face. I am your host, Carol West, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Sisterhood. Hello everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Lifted, where today I have decided to delve into a topic that's quite close to me because it's the one thing that's kind of helped me become the person that I am today. Today I'm going to be talking about motherhood. Motherhood, what a journey. Still going through it. It never ends. Once you become a parent, once you become a mother, you'll always have that. And there is no experience like the first experience. And for me, it was kind of a rude awakening, should I say, because nothing really prepared me for it. Absolutely nothing. You know, I read all the books. I went on to all the clinics and the antenatal classes and all that. But I think for anybody who is about to embark on this journey for the first time, the things that I wish people would have said to me going into it, and just to make me aware of what awaits me. But even then, every person's experience of motherhood is always going to be different. And going through the birth and all that side of things, it's always going to vary from person to person. No two experiences can be the same. And so it's very difficult to actually compare yourself to anybody else, because at the end of the day, you are unique to yourself and your body is unique to you. So the way you will carry your pregnancy to term and to the point where you go and give birth to somebody else, it's going to be completely different. So for me, it was, it was one of those things that was quite... The birth itself was traumatic, but I just want to go back to the very beginning of where this journey started off. And as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a mother. It's always something that I had at the back of my mind. Like growing up, I grew up around a big family, and you know, there was kids around all the time. And it was very much community-based sort of upbringing, and not like, bringing up your child on your own. Extended family who are involved, and, neighbours, just general community spirit sort of being brought up that way. So for me, it really wasn't something that was hard to be ingrained in me, because I grew up wanting to have or to be a mother. Now, when it comes to asking how many children I wanted, in my head, I always had one. Don't ask me why, and I don't really know what that's about, because growing up in a big family, you wouldn't expect that. But I think because it was a big family and there was just, so many people around all the time, and I am one who likes my space. I used to find it quite comforting to retreat into my own space. and I wasn't very, very outgoing. And again, being an introvert didn't help. So I think in my head, I was just thinking like the last thing, I know I want to be a mom, but I really don't want a big family. I always wanted like just the one. I always had in my mind that I just want the one kid, that will be fine. So saying that, now getting to this point that I am today, obviously I've got two, and that's a story that I'm going to feed in as we go along. But yeah, my first one came along when after a few years after I'd been married, and the pregnancy itself was okay. I mean, it is a miracle in itself if you think about it. Carrying a pregnancy to term and to the point of giving birth to a healthy baby, that in itself it actually is a miracle. So I will always be grateful and thankful for that, because not many people or some people don't get to experience the joy of actually carrying a baby to term and having a healthy baby at the end of their pregnancy. So yes, I'm very blessed to have had that privilege, not just once but twice. But yeah, the pregnancy itself, the first semester is the worst one. Suffered really badly with morning sickness, fatigue, all the signs and symptoms for it. It was awful. And I remember at one point I just sat down and I thought, like, is this the thing that I really wanted to have? Because it's just awful. I just feel terrible all the time. You're being sick constantly, and for me it wasn't just morning sickness. It went through the day for days on end. Like, yeah, it wasn't great. And then as I got bigger, obviously you start getting you start adapting to your new body and what it's doing. And there was a lot of moments where I was quite blown away by what the body's ability, what the body can actually do, the ability of the body to change and adapt, to be able to sustain a human being inside you, to bring forth life. That is something that I was very fascinated by, and generally I am, always in awe of the human body, and that's the one thing also that made me sway towards the bodybuilding side of things, because it's the need to know, like, what else can the body do and how much can you actually push it to achieve something that looks like it's almost unachievable. But yeah, like carrying life inside you in itself is an utterly and complete, it's a miracle. So when I started like getting bigger and the bump started growing, and you get to the point where you start going for the checkups and the scans and everything, it did get exciting towards those bits. But as I say, the exhaustion and the fatigue was real. And it's funny though, because I think in a way you have to go through those feelings, and your body has to do that, and it's kind of preparing you for what's to come. Because if you think that's bad, you have to wait till the baby is born, and then you will know what real exhaustion is, because that will be nothing compared to the level of tiredness that you will experience when baby's born, when you're at your most vulnerable, really, and you can't really get any sleep and you can't really do very much. So yeah, it was one of those things where it was quite fascinating to see what the body is doing and how the body is adapting to the pregnancy and bringing forth life. And so when it got to a point where I went to the gender scan, I think it was the 20-week scan. That was quite exciting, because you're there, you're thinking like, oh, is it going to be a girl, is it going to be a boy? And it's something that you're really looking forward to. And it was an exciting time, but also it was very nervy, because it's also the point where things can be detected and, things can go wrong. So you're there and you're half and half and you really don't know what to feel. But for me, mostly, I think it was excitement because, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I am more of a glass half full rather than half empty. So I always look on the positive side, and I always go into situations knowing that I'm going to get the best outcome. And if I don't, then I'll take it and I'll deal with it. So yeah, found out on that scan that it was a girl. So that was exciting, and it was really nice to know. Some people don't like knowing what gender is, and that's fine. Everybody has got, at the end of the day, it's your choice what you want to do. It's your pregnancy. But for me, it kind of made it very real, because it's one thing walking around with a bump, but it kind of, when you see it in front of you on a scan, on the screen, it kind of makes it really very real, and it helps you kind of process the fact that actually you are actually carrying a human being inside you. So then when it gets to the point where you get to start feeling the kicks and the baby moving, that in itself also is a completely new experience. And for upcoming mothers, that's something that you will really look forward to, because it is fantastic. And I think at that point you can even be able to bond with baby a bit more, because you're feeling these movements, and it's kind of reinforcing the fact that there is a human being in there, and it makes it more real. So in those instances, really, you want to try as much as you can to kind of bond with baby, because they do hear, and they do, they can't feel what you're feeling. So yeah, it's quite an interesting, it's an interesting time around that time when you start feeling the kicks and everything. And so when it got time to almost have baby, everything, I think towards the end, it wasn't too bad compared to the beginning, even though, I was still quite tired. And I think the sickness went on through to the end, really. But, sporadically, it wasn't as bad as the beginning, but it was there. And by the time I got to the back end of almost going into labour, I was really tired. My bump wasn't really that massive. It was quite compact. But it was big for me, or for my structure of, obviously being very small-bodied. When you do have a baby inside you, it will stick out. So yes, it was quite big for me, but most people thought that it wasn't big at all. But it was exciting time. I was quite looking forward to having baby, but then I wasn't prepared for what was to come, because nothing prepared me for it, and nothing can prepare you for it. And as I say, everybody's experience of birth is always going to be different. No two people's births are the same. But I had my plan laid out of how I wanted things to go. I wasn't having any of these water births, anything like that. But I did want an epidural. But as things go, it's not usually that straightforward, is it? I went into labour in the night. I think it was in the night, and my waters actually broke, and I went in, and they had a look at me, and they said that I'm nowhere near. I should go back home, and so I went back home. But then it really got intense, so I had to go back in. I couldn't stay. I couldn't stay still. And the pain was absolutely excruciating, so there was no way I was going to stay home. So we went back into hospital. They had another look, and of course I was nowhere near. Still, I was like 2 centimeters, so there was nothing happening. And that was going to be the beginning of a very long night. So I still had a long way to go, and got into hospital, and they put me in a ward. So because there just wasn't any movement at this point. I was in really, really bad pain, but they were not for giving me an epidural at that point. God knows why. So I struggled with it all through. I was on my own as well because, there was no point of my husband staying with me because they didn't think that anything was going to happen for a while anyway. So I was in there screaming and shouting on my own, trying to manage the pain as much as I could. All I got was painkillers, but they weren't even touching the sides. Like, it was real bad. So at one point I did call the nurse in or the midwife, and she said, "Oh, you might find some relief if you go in and have a bath or lie in the bath." So I did go. Somehow I managed to fill the bath with water. I got in. I couldn't even sit down. I had to get out. I could not sit still. It just wasn't happening. Tried to get out. I couldn't get out. And I just sat there. I didn't know what to do. So I pulled the cord that you can pull so somebody comes in and helps you out, and that happened. So I got put back into the ward. They had a look at me, and I think I was only 4 centimeters at this point. So still nothing happening. And that carried on for a long time. And by the time I was getting to the point where I was screaming for an epidural, they said, "Oh, you've gone over now. We can't really give you one." So I literally had to grin and bear it, as bad as it was. And then when it came time for baby to come, obviously, got to 10 centimeters. And I was that tired. I don't think I even had the energy to push as much. And so it went on for a while, and I just wasn't pushing. I couldn't do it. I was that tired. I couldn't do it. So they had to use the vacuum to get her out. And so when they did, she came out. She was healthy, nothing wrong. Everything was fine, intact as it should be. But I was just so exhausted by it all because, it was a really, really long labor. And after she came, obviously when the placenta came out, and they were trying to sew me up because they had to do some cuts to get the baby out. It appeared that I couldn't stop bleeding, so they were trying to sew me up, but the blood just kept coming. So I had to go into theatre, so they can figure out what's going on and how I can be fixed. At this point, I think I just thought, like, God, this feels awful. It doesn't feel great. But they wheeled me out, took me to theatre. I think I was in and out of it. I can't really remember. But when they got me to theatre, I just remember at one point I was literally going to pass out, and I just said to the nurse, "I can't breathe." And she said, "Oh, it's all right, it's just your blood pressure, it's dropping. We're just gonna bump it up a bit." And and then I just went. So at that point, it's all sorts going through your head, thinking like, I've just given birth and I'm here dying, and it was awful. So it wasn't great. It wasn't the best experience of my life. But then we got over that, and it was fine in the end. Managed to be wheeled out of the theatre afterwards, and I got to hold baby. So that was great. And there is no experience like it when you finally get to hold your baby, when you've, everything's been done, you've been tidied up, and it's all done. It is great. It is one of the most. And again, I do appreciate not all mothers get this. When everybody says like, "Oh, you get a rush of love when you hold your baby for the first time," and I appreciate some moms will not have that feeling, and it's also okay. And I think there's steps that can be taken to ensure that mom tries to bond with baby as much as possible, because it's a crucial stage for both mother and child. And for me, it was a beautiful time. But then afterwards, when everybody's been and gone and you're left there with baby and you're thinking like, "Oh my God, I'm actually an adult now, and I'm responsible for another human being," and it is quite scary. It is a scary thought, and it's a scary feeling. Because all of a sudden it dawns on you that, yes, it was all fun and games when everything was happening and, you know, there was everyone around you, and then you're left with this helpless thing right in front of you, and you're thinking, like, I've got to bring it up. It's all down to me. You know, it's quite scary as a thought, but it is also quite rewarding, and it is a beautiful thing when you're lying there and you're looking at a baby and you're thinking, like, I've just produced that. And yeah, for me, it was like a lot of ups and downs, and I can't really say that I enjoyed my pregnancy, not the first one anyway, because a lot of it was just being sick and being exhausted and constantly, you know, fatigued and moody and all sorts. And I had really bad breakout as well. My face was an absolute state. So it wasn't like, you know, when they say, like, you get pregnant and then you get this glow, that did not apply to me. I can tell you that now, because my face completely went the other way. But other than that, it was an experience, and one that I'll never forget, and one that I'm really grateful for, because now when I look at this person who is much taller than me, it's hard to believe that once upon a time they fit perfectly in my arms, and now they don't. And again, it's people say it and it sounds cliche, but they grow up so fast and it goes really quick. It doesn't seem like it at the time because there's so much to do. There's so much to think about. You know, are they breathing when you come out of hospital? Are they okay? You know, you hardly sleep because you're worried about all these things you read, and all these things people say that happens to babies when they're sleeping, and it's just one thing on top of the other, and it's hard. And I do remember sitting on the edge of the bed at one point and just thinking, like, good Lord, this is hard. This is hard stuff. And at that point, I still was healing from my stitches. They didn't heal very well. I got infected, and, you know, it just wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. However, that's the bad stuff. The good stuff is I got to do loads of things. Got to meet other moms for like play dates and stuff like this, and you get to see them grow up, and you get to see them take their first steps, and you get to see them becoming their own person, slowly but surely. And it's fast, but it's not. And it's only when you start looking back at things like photos that you used to take, and then you remember a time that you did that, and you think, like, oh God, this seems like a long time ago, but it really isn't. It's just that you're so immersed in being a mom and making sure that this person survives from a day-to-day basis. They're fed, and they're clean, and they're dry. You know, it's the small things that you get so involved in, and it's a lot that you have to do, but it's also very rewarding when you start seeing the changes happening, when they start talking, you know, their first words, things like this. And the things that as a first-time mom, you need to celebrate these things, because it's that first experience. There is nothing like it. And when you start seeing like qualities of them or some of you in them, it does actually make you want to stand back and just look at it in awe, because genetics are a strong thing. But for my daughter, it's like most people will say, like, women will know this. You carry the baby for 9 months and then they come out looking like their dad. But that doesn't always stick. Eventually they do change as they grow, and they become different. And then you start seeing flecks of you in them as well. You know, it might not be their looks, it might just be the way they carry themselves or how they talk, or just things, small things they might do, and you just think, like, oh my goodness, that's me. That's just me. And it's lovely. Being a mother is one of the best things that you will ever experience. It's hard, but it's rewarding. And yes, you will always have to be you will always have to be on the lookout. And they go through these phases, and they don't always stay the same. And as I say, for me, I'm still not even halfway there with it. Mine's just, they're just getting to the point where one is almost a teenager and one's coming up not too far away. So it's one of those things that it's continual, and as they change their phases, you have to adapt to it. Every phase comes with its own challenges, and no two phases are the same. So again, it's just one of those things that you have to kind of go with the flow, if you will, and take each day as it comes. There'll be fantastic days. There'll be days where you just think like it's so worth it to be a mom. And then there'll be days that you think like, I just want to tear my hair out, and I really don't know what this is, and I actually don't know what I'm doing. And you'll be glad to know that you won't be on your own thinking that, because we all don't know what we're doing. We kind of just wing it as we go along, and, try and get advice from people who are more experienced than us. And family is also important. You need that support network as well. Because from time to time, you actually do need a break from your kids. There is nothing wrong with that, because it can be all-consuming, and it can be something that can really get to your head. So if you do have that family support network, you're one of the lucky ones, and it's something that you should lean into and not feel like you're burdening people if they offer to help. Take the help, especially when baby's small. You do need to recharge, and you do need your rest, because then you can go back in a better frame of mind, and you can be a better mom to your child or your children. And it is important to have that time for yourself. I go on about self-care all the time, and it just doesn't apply to to things to do with training and bodybuilding. It also applies to family life. It applies to things like when baby is small. Like, if you have somebody who is offering help, you take the help, because I feel like sometimes it's very hard for a mom to relinquish that that duty, and you want to hold on to it, as because it's something that you feel only you can do and do well, or you can control all of it. And you can also be scared that you're leaving your child with somebody else, and if something happens, you might not be able to live with yourself, because you'll feel like you left them with somebody else, sort of thing. So really, it's important for you to accept help when it's offered, and also it's important for you to be able to get your sleep, because if you've got somebody there who can watch baby while you're sleeping, at least you will sleep better, or you will somehow be able to have some sort of better sleep than if it's just you and baby. Because I used to find it difficult, because, as I say, you're scared of things like cot death, and will she roll over and fall on something, or strangle herself with a whatever. It's hard, and you're always there thinking of anything that could go wrong, and you're trying to make things right constantly. So it is hard, but as I say, if you have got that network there to support you, you should be able to release that to somebody else, and let them take over for a bit. If you've got mom and dad with you, let them also step in and help you. As I say, I've come from a big family, big community, and you don't bring your child up on your own. There will always be somebody who will come and take baby away. You get fed, you're allowed to sleep, and then they just bring baby in for feeding. And that is good, because your body recovers faster as well. I think part of why my recovery was very slow was because I just wasn't getting that break. It has always been me and my husband, and there is no that support network. So it was very hard to get those proper rest in, because for one, baby was breastfed, so she didn't really go to dad very much, and he didn't really know what to do with it. So a lot of the time I just had to take charge of it and grind through the 20-minute sleep. If I got some sleep, it will be like in bursts of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at most, because she was always up every 2 hours for a feed at night, and her daytime sleeping was quite sporadic as well. So I wasn't always guaranteed a long sleep, very broken sleep, as you will any mother will identify with. But eventually, they do get out of that phase, and then they eventually move into their own cot, into their own bedroom, and before you know it, yes, you will have the struggles of trying to get them to sleep through the night and not come out of their bedrooms. But it does happen. You got to keep going. If you've got a routine going with it, it does help, because they will get used to doing the same thing over and over until it sticks. It does get better. It does get better. I have to say, sometimes when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, and you just feel like, oh my God, this is taking forever. When is it ever going to change? But believe me, it does. And when it does, you won't even realize when it has. And then, you do get your life back, and things do go back to normal eventually. Sometimes it just feels like it drags out a bit longer than it should, but it's a good experience. And for upcoming mums who are expecting their babies for the first time, it is something. There's a lot to look forward to. The snuggles, the cuddles, and all that bit. It's just lovely. And it's something that I do miss now that they're bigger, because we could have like afternoon naps where we could just lay on the settee and go to sleep, albeit for like 20 minutes. But it used to be lovely. That is something I quite miss. But motherhood has taught me a lot. It has shaped me, and it has made me who I am today. I live my life for my kids. They're everything, and of course, everything that you do kind of makes you realize that even if you're in the midst of a really tough time, that you'd always try and push through it, because you've got little eyes watching you, and you will well know that they don't really do what you say, they do what you do. So it's very important that what you do sets a good example to them as well, because that's how they learn. And it's really important that not to also be too hard on yourself on days where things don't go to plan or things don't go right. It's not always going to be that way. Some days are going to be great, as I say, and some days not so great. But in all ways, you have to be grateful for the fact that you managed to bring forth into the world a living being, and they came out and you did that, and they're healthy, and you managed to bring them up to the point that they are today. It is a blessing, and really it's something to be very, very grateful for. And I, for one, I know for a fact that I am eternally grateful for it, and I feel very privileged and very blessed to have two beautiful children who are very healthy and very well behaved. Albeit sometimes a bit wild, but they're all right. I think we've done good with them. So yeah, I'm truly happy that I have them in my life. So yeah, today that was the episode. It was motherhood, and yeah, I think I poured my heart out there, but it comes from deep within, and it's something that it really means a lot to me. So I felt like it was important to share with you all that today, and I hope you've taken something out of it and it will help somebody somewhere. Okay, people, so I will see you on the next episode. I look forward to coming on again. Take care for now. Bye-bye. And just before you go, Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel so you don't ever miss any upcoming episodes. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Carol West Coaching. Are you interested in coaching or joining our team as a client? We offer photo shoot, body transformations, as well as bodybuilding competition prep packages. The team at the Elevate Health and Body Transformation Program are ready and waiting to help you achieve and maintain your dream physique. Whether you're looking to step on stage or just want to do it for yourself, you can send us a DM and we'll get you on the road to achieving a lean and fit physique. Bye for now.